Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with their great idea in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Hamilton, Ontario. Suzanne Zandbergen is a social media expert who connects her customers with the community through social impact. She's also one of the first 100 business stories we featured in the series, taking a leap of faith with us a few years ago. Let's find out how she's taken her experience in advertising to interact directly with your customers in real time through social media. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Suzanne Zandbergen.
Thanks, Trish. I'm happy to be here.
You know, I love watching your social posts because you have a wonderful way of increasing engagement and getting people to sort of want to see more. And I know that you started your business sort of when social media was first starting. So how did you make the transition from a manager in advertising in our local newspaper to actually becoming an entrepreneur in social media?
Yeah, so my business is 10 years old now. So yeah, things have changed a ton since then. But yeah, even before that, my first career was at the Hamilton Spectator in advertising. And, you know, I saw huge changes over the time I was there as well. But when social media came onto the scene, it was a game changer. Like I immediately saw like, okay, now it's not just one-way advertising where you're putting a message out there. There's the opportunity to interact with your customers. And that was really exciting to me. And, you know, I worked there and tried to get other managers on board, trying to incorporate some of that into the newspaper. But, you know, it's like kind of trying to steer the Titanic. It's a very legacy, environment.
Sure. They get stuck in their processes, right?
Yeah, it's just tough to just change on the fly, which is one of the great things about being an entrepreneur. But yeah, so I did leave there in thinking I would take on a social media role for another corporation or something. That's really what I was thinking. Starting a business was never my plan. I never had thought about it actually. But then I started working with a small company who was working out of a co-working space. And I was just surrounded by all these young entrepreneurs. And I was just immediately thought, wow, like, why don't I just start my own business and do exactly what I want to do? And so the rest is history.
Wow. Now, you know, I love your reference too. So being in business for 10 years, I mean, you can think back to when you first hung out a shingle and started to get your first clients, right? I mean, and even how your space has changed, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I started my first business over 30 years ago when there was only traditional media, right? Newspaper, magazine, radio, and TV. And as a small entrepreneur, I couldn't afford to do that. But now the opportunities are endless because most of the social media platforms are free. And all you have to do is be able to hone your content, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's so true. It's a huge opportunity. And a lot of times I don't think business owners realize they think it's a chore, but man, it's just so amazing of a tool that's just there for all of us to use. And it is free. Yeah.
Now, what I love is that you give folks an opportunity to engage with a customer, because that's something that we are not able to do in traditional media because it's more static. So if you could share with our viewing and listening audience who are sitting back and saying, you know, yes, I create content, but I'm not getting the engagement that I like, or I don't know how to use a specific tool that can increase my engagement. Is there a particular platform and maybe a tool that you can share with our viewing and listening audience that they could implement on their own to increase engagement?
I think the one thing that right now, video is everything. So if you haven't started using video or very little, use video and show your face. Talk to your audience. Like sometimes it's really scary to people. I know I had to really get used to that, and it's hard, but like, don't try to be perfect. Just put your content out there, talk to people like you would in real life, and share your passions about why you're doing what you're doing, what makes your business unique, all of this stuff. Like that's storytelling. That's
right.
Listening to people. And like when you think about when you meet real people in real life, that's immediately what you're making the connection with people. Like, what are you interested in? What's your passion? And, that's all you're doing on social media.
Yeah, it's just like this show, right? We're introducing the person behind the logo because we spend so much time making sure that the front-facing things that we use in our marketing and advertising are perfect. We've got the right logo, the right colors, the right image, the right messaging. But people want to know who's behind the logo.
Mm-hmm. That's really where you make the connections.
And are you finding, I love the way you connect your community with social media. So, you're consistently showing things that are happening in the local community, whether it's business oriented or entertainment or just plain interesting. Where do you find and how do you make the decision to share those stories?
Well, I decided early on that I wanted the generators' social media channels just to be all about sharing other small businesses and organizations and events in the community, because I just actually really like doing that. So it never makes doing my own marketing a chore. I just really like doing it. And I think, like, why not use your platforms for something good, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so that's been something that I've done since the beginning. And I find different businesses and stuff to go see. Just basically, I try to think of themes and stuff. Like, for example, the past year, I've been doing this independent grocery tour, because people were just like, food prices are huge, and like these grocery giants are making huge profits. So, like, let's talk about what are your options, So I just started researching all these different little places that I've never been to. And I thought, maybe if I haven't been, then other people haven't either. So we just go inside and what's the story here? What do you have? Why do you do what you do? Yeah, so that's been super fun. And again, it just creates this it generates this idea of content for you that you don't think too hard about what are you going to do next. It's just like, what's the next place I'm going to go to? Yeah.
Well, I think that your business is really connecting the dots to social impact and community. So one of the things that you have done as another, we'll call it a side hustle for lack of a better word, is the co-founding of a very large community called Hamilton Fempreneurs. So give us a little bit of insight as to how that project came to be.
Yeah, so that started near the beginning of when I was in the co-working space, started my business, and there was a couple other women entrepreneurs, and we used to go together as one solid force to lots of entrepreneur events. And we realized there weren't a lot of women speaking at these events back then. So we decided to start our own group specifically to have speaking opportunities for ourselves and for our co-working
colleagues.
Yeah, colleagues. Yeah. Exactly. So we started them as events, and we had little workshops and speaking opportunities. And then I started the Facebook group, and that's where it really took off, because now it's not you're just waiting for the next month for the event. It's like every day you have questions, you want to share things, and in this community just grew. There was a real need for it, I think. So.
And how many members are you sort of targeting at this particular point in time? Have you brought together on that Facebook group? Because when you originally shared your story as one of our original 100 business features, there was around 4,000 members, which was quite astronomical when you think about it at the time, especially when it's organically grown through word of mouth. So where are you at right now in terms of folks who are participating in that group?
So we're over 7,500 members now.
Amazing.
A lot of growth during the pandemic.
Right. So have you seen that there's been an explosion of small business owners as a result of the pandemic, which then lends itself to needing your help in social media?
Definitely, there's a lot of new home-based businesses, people who were, stuck at home and, bored and thought, oh, maybe this is the chance to do what I've always sort of thought about in the back of my head. And yeah, but trying to start a business all in your own isolated is really tough. And there's a lot of questions. And that's the great thing about the community is this community just, everybody's been through it at one point or another. Somebody in the group has. So you put the question out there and you get like 10 answers with people recommending what they did, how they went through it. And Yeah, so it's really exciting.
It kind of varies your core values, right? Because the core values in your business have been translated into this wonderful platform where you give people an opportunity to engage with other like-minded individuals. So
Mhm.
kudos to you and the other co-founders for taking that leap to create something that has filled a need in a larger community, because I'm assuming with that number of folks in the group, you're reaching a wider geographic area than probably you ever thought possible, with a local community being in the Hamilton area.
Yeah, it's definitely outside. It's the GTA basically.
Right,
Yeah.
right, in that golden horseshoe.
Yeah, there are some across Canada in the group as well, but mostly I think the sweet spot is the GTA.
Right,
A little
right.
distance. Yeah.
So, as a 10-year entrepreneur, and we can all think back to the days when we started in the trenches with our great idea, if there was something that you could share with our viewing and listening audience in terms of having to learn a new skill or having to outsource something that would help you expand your business, because I'm sure your business model has changed. I mean, in 10 years, things don't stay static, especially in your industry.
Yeah.
So is there something that you can share with our viewing and listening audience that they can think about if they're in a growth spurt, as an example?
hmm I mean, for sure, the thing I learned early on was about outsourcing, and because you think, I got to bootstrap everything and do it myself, save
Hmm.
money. But sometimes saving money in the short term can cost you more in the long term.
Sure.
Like I was trying to do my own bookkeeping and stuff like that. And I just didn't really know what I was doing in that area. So
Mhm.
by the time I kind of was like, I just shouldn't be doing this, then it was a lot. There was a lot there to sort of go back and clean up for somebody. So
Sure.
yeah, you want to just find things that they're not in your realm. Find somebody to work with on that. It's worth it in the long run for sure.
And I think that the most common area, or the very first touch point that people look for, is someone to do the books, right?
Mhm.
Because as you say, it's a necessary evil when you first start out, because everyone is trying to, pay the bills, make some money, expand their business. So you try to keep everything in house, but eventually you get to a point where you say, okay, what's the first thing I need to outsource and get it off my plate so that I can do the things that I'm really good at doing? And
Mhm.
generally speaking, that seems to be the first touch point, is finding someone to do the books.
Definitely. Yeah, it seems to be one of those skills where it's not
Yeah, where we're happy to let them go, right? We're happy to try to partner with somebody to say, yeah, here's my shoebox. You can take all this stuff and do what you need to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, in a 10-year business, you've obviously got a long-term plan. So some of us plan for 6 months, other people plan for a year, some people look at a 3 or 5 year strategy.
Mhm,
What's been your strategy? Because growth and opportunity only comes if we do some strategic planning. So
mhm.
where do you see the generator going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so that's a really tough one for my business because I'm
Mm,
100%, relying on these third-party apps, which change daily almost, right?
isn't that the truth?
Yeah, and like other apps come onto the scene, and the TikTok all of a sudden became this big thing where customers started asking me, well, maybe that's something I should try. So definitely that makes it tough to plan. I
Mhm.
think overall, though, like I don't get stressed about that and what's going to be next and trying to figure it out because you can't. But knowing that like the core principles are always going to be the same. Businesses are going to need to reach their customers, and I'm going to be able to help them do that, whatever platform it is. Now in terms of like sort of a long-term strategy and stuff, like I've been over 10 years, I've been through a huge roller coaster of like really at the beginning, really getting to that entrepreneurship culture of like grow, 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 hire people, you need to really just expand. And I just did that, but I didn't really figure out why am I doing that? What's my strategy here? Like that isn't a strategy to just try to expand for no reason.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was just pre-pandemic. I realized like that I'm not doing what I want to really be doing. Um, I enjoy the creative part of my business, working with clients and coming up with plans and really helping them grow and things like that. And I wasn't doing that anymore. I was more managing people and
Right.
doing sales to just constantly fuel all these employees. So
Right, right.
yeah, I think it's important to really take a step back and know what is important to you with your business. So I was able to get back eventually into a place where now I get to work with clients. I'm more particular about which clients I can work with and projects, and really work with people that I'm excited about.
So what's your sweet spot? So if I'm listening to our discussion and I'm thinking, wow, I really do need someone to help me with my social media. What would be the sweet spot for the client that you're hoping to work with, in addition to obviously the connection piece and being able to make a connection with that other business owner? Is there a type of business or an industry or a size that you're interested in working with?
I have worked with all varieties of industries. I mean, when it comes down to it, it is all the same principles of trying to reach people and getting to that kernel of what's unique about you, telling your story. And that's what I really like when working with an industry I know nothing about, is trying to find that kernel and working with them on that. So there isn't really a sweet spot in terms of industry. The size of the company matters a little bit, because sometimes they have staff who already do what I do.
Right.
Sometimes it's usually sort of a mid-sized company where they have marketing staff, but not enough to do the day-to-day of social media. So I work sometimes with teams, like in corporations, that kind of guide me on what they want to see, and then I'm executing. But I also work with small businesses where they have nobody, and I'm it. So.
And that's kind of a wonderful place to be, because you can build a long-term relationship with those types of clients, because as they continue to grow their business, you continue to help them with that strategy in order to increase their engagement and be visible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice, and your 3 words are focus on strengths. So let's wrap up our conversation with you giving us an idea as to why those things are important to you in your business.
Yeah, and I think I touched on them a little bit, because focusing on your strengths allows you to be really fulfilled in what you're doing. And because as entrepreneurs, we work really hard. We have like longer hours, and it's hard work, but as long as you're really fulfilled and happy in what you're doing and excited every day when you get up to work on what you're going to work on, I think that's why it's so important to focus on your strengths, because you just need that motivation, right?
Right,
You
right.
gotta
That's
keep
so
going.
true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I really would like to thank you, Suzanne, because I think you've given some really behind the scenes, heartfelt advice to folks. The fact that you weren't really thinking of starting a business when you first left your corporate job, and you did the whole expansion, and then you decided to refocus and reassess and come back to your core values. So kudos to you for making all the connections that you've made in helping to support the community of business owners in Hamilton, but also connecting the dots and focusing on sharing the folks who are actually going for some community impact. So thank you so much for all that you do, and we certainly wish you continued success.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Suzanne's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keepin It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.